Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es William Álvarez. Provengo del Aeropuerto Internacional de Miami. Allí soy oficial de seguridad, trabajando para la compañía Yulin America, compañía por la cual, porque desproporcionalmente da menos que lo que le damos a ellos como trabajadores, fuimos reunidos para buscar un sindicato entre nosotros, el Departamento de Seguridad. Y es por eso que fuimos a una huelga en la cual recibimos la visita de un senador, Cory, que está con nosotros aquí hoy presente, y lo estamos presentando para que venga y se haga presente aquí y nos dé nuevamente aquel apoyo que tuvimos cuando él se presentó levantando letreros y ayudando a los pobres trabajadores que pedían esos derechos laborales. Sin más, únanse a la bienvenida para el senador Cory Booker.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. Hi. Nice to meet you. Hello, everybody. All right. Well, I'm batting cleanup today, and you all can leave some leftovers for me on the tables. But look, I am excited to be here and let everybody know that this election that we have right now, it is not a referendum on one guy in one office. This isn't a referendum on who we are as a nation and who we must be to each other. It is not about who we're against, it's about who we're for. And I know some folk are like, you know, I just want the biggest thing, this is what the pundits say, the biggest thing we want is just someone who can beat Donald Trump. Well, I look at them and I'm saying, dear God, can't we have bigger aspirations than that? Beating Donald Trump is a floor, it is not the ceiling. Beating Donald Trump gets us out of the valley, but it does not get us to the mountaintop. And so I want you to know, I made a decision with my life decades ago. I was coming out of law school, and you know, I was coming out of a fancy law school called Yale. My dad's not impressed with me. He's like, boy, you got more degrees in the month of July, but you ain't hot. Life is not about the degrees you get, it's about the service you give. And so 20 years ago plus, I moved into the Central Ward of Newark, New Jersey. I live in a community that works hard, and we do not mistake wealth with worth. I live in a community that the median income is below the poverty line. And I watch that this nation, I do not aspire to go back to the days, the glorious days before Donald Trump was president. I want to go forward to the days that communities like mine and communities all across this country truly have liberty and justice for all. Because we live in a nation where what this union is fighting for, you're not just fighting for the rights of workers, you're fighting to make this nation live up to its promise. And when you fight for work with dignity, you transform not just a family's life, you've transformed neighborhoods, you transform cities, you transform this nation. And what people don't understand is you can't separate out these issues. There is an intersectionality to everything we're going to talk about in my short time. From racism and bigotry to a criminal justice system that, as my friend says, treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent, to the injustice of having a community where people work full-time jobs, but then I see them with the dignity-stripping reality at my corner bodega of still needing food stamps to feed their families. To living in a community that we don't talk about enough, that the leading cause of death for my children, black children and Latino children in my community is murder. To seeing a community like mine and like all over this country where we live with such savage environmental injustice that people do not know if they can trust the water coming out of their tap. This union is standing up for the fundamental ideal that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. This election is about us, not him, and let's make sure we make this country be who we say we are, a nation of liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa McShane, and I'm an adjunct professor at Anne Arundel Community College in Maryland, where I've been teaching for the last 5 years. I'm an English professor, and prior to that, I was a public school teacher. I left to teach higher education because that's really where my passion is. Despite having 2 master's degrees and over 10 years of teaching experience and being a highly qualified teacher, I cannot get hired for a full-time position at my college. And being an adjunct professor is challenging. Whether it's low wages or erratic scheduling, I worry about how I'm going to take care of my family. I'm a single mom, and I make $15,000 a year. I've had to go on Medicaid and look for a second job because the healthcare benefits at my college are non-existent for adjunct faculty. This is the state of higher education right now, and it is not working for the workers or for the students. We are at our breaking points. When I was a public school teacher, I belonged to a union, and I had higher wages, I had health benefits, and I had job security. We need that at the higher education level as well. Senator Booker, higher education has become unaffordable for too many families, and debt is harming our students. It's great to see our elected officials are recognizing this. However, there's another side to the story. Adjunct professors like myself are struggling. And we cannot remain silent anymore. What will you do to ensure public educators like myself are receiving family-sustaining wages and have access to a union?
Thank you very much. So, first of all, everyone who works should have access to a union. And efforts that are going on right now to stop it, to deny it, from the so-called right-to-work states all the way to the most recent decision from the National Labor Relations Board that stopped your ability to organize unions. This is absolutely wrong. I am here right now because a black man coming from the South who moved up to the assembly lines in Ford Motor Company, my grandfather had the right to join a union, the UAW. I am here because of union jobs and union labor. So very simply, this is the thing that I'm going to do as your president. We have seen union membership go down in this country, and we've seen economic security being devastated and stratifications in wealth grow. That will stop as your president. I will make sure that we begin from the National Labor Relations Board, which I'm going to change, and they're going to reverse this decision to allow you to organize a union on my watch, all the way to federal judges and Supreme Court judges that are going to begin to uphold the power of people to organize unions in the United States of America. And even more than this, we need to make sure that people who have student loans to pay, like you do, that we forgive your loans when you're in public service professions. We cannot be a nation that says we are struggling to form a more perfect union and then undermine unions. As President of the United States, I will make sure we empower unions. I will make sure that the right to organize is fundamental. I will check corporate power and actually go after and prosecute corporations that violate the law, stopping people from organizing unions. And college campuses should be organized. College campuses should have unions. It's not just adjunct professors, it's also TAs and people that are out there doing work but getting substandard pay and having to struggle below the poverty line when they too are trying to support families and have their American dream.
Hi, Senator Booker.
How are you?
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So my name is Teresa Rutherford. I am currently a nurse assistant at Laguna Honda Hospital.
I didn't hear your
I know, my
You gotta.
Coworkers are
a lot
excited.
of- There's a lot of love out there for you.
Hold it down, brothers and sisters.
All right, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
So I'm a nurse assistant at Laguna Honda. I work, my employer is San Francisco Department of Health. And I'm also a homeowner. I'm also a member, proud member of SEIU 10-1. Now, I want to make the point that I live in Sacramento and I work in San Francisco. The turnaround for that is 200 miles. Now, I am not unique. That is consistent with the other 18,000 of my coworkers who work in San Francisco. The majority of us cannot live where we work. Now, why is that? And I will posit and I will present that the reason for that primarily is because corporations have stepped into the Bay Area, have stepped into the most desirable areas and taken over those areas, bleed the resources. So now housing becomes a challenge for us. Childcare becomes a challenge for us because corporations are not coming and bringing resources. They are utilizing the existing resources that workers like myself have helped to build and to create. And so now we do the work, we service the community, but we don't get the chance or the opportunity to live there. Now, one of the things that we also face is the reality, the primary reality that corporations do not pay their fair share. They get tax breaks, they get to use all the resources in the community. In essence, they get to drain the resources off the community. And what is happening is ordinary homeowners, I'm one of the few fortunate people to own a home in California, but at the same time, there is the anomaly that I am paying the same rate of taxes. The corporation is paying the same rate of taxes, rather, as myself. That's an inequitable process. That's not fair. That's wrong. And so California has embarked on a process to mobilizing around reforming Prop 13. Yes. And it's called Schools and Communities First. And the idea of that is to bring things back into, create fairness, and to hold the corporations accountable, and to make corporations put back the resources that they're taking out of the communities by paying their fair share of the taxes. My question to you is, if you become president, what will you do to create that fairness? What will you do to hold corporations accountable? And what will you do to make sure that they pay their fair share of taxes?
Thank you very much. This is the crux of one of the most significant corrupting realities in America right now. When my dad was coming up, in America, if you worked a minimum wage job, you were above the poverty line. We know that that's not the case anymore. Corporations, they had a different view of their responsibility. They actually had this philosophy that they had many people who were stakeholders in that corporation, and you saw people taking care of communities, investing in neighborhoods and more. But now you see corporations hiring armies of lobbyists that are coming to rewrite the rules of society that have created the highest 80-year high, 60-year high of corporate profits. And wages in our country, they say they've been stagnant for decades, but the reality is they haven't kept up with the cost of living. And so really we've seen the average workers getting poorer and poorer and poorer, but corporations getting wealthier and wealthier. And you see this in so many corrupting ways in our society, where even this tax cut plan, the toxic Trump tax cuts, which forced all this money in this terrible theory, we heard it again, we've heard it before, this lie that somehow if you give the wealthiest of the wealthy more resources like corporations, it's going to trickle down. Well, what they ended up doing is engaging in schemes that just a generation ago were considered illegal, like stock buybacks, jacking up their corporate stock prices, which benefits who? Well, a third of our stock market is owned by people that aren't even American citizens. And so this has got to change. It is eroding, as you're showing, entire communities are changing. We're now, because of gentrification, and it's not just your community, it's not just your city, it's happening coast to coast, north to south, we're seeing massive problems. And so what I believe fundamentally is we've got to get back to having everybody paying their fair share. And when you have corporations like Chevron or Halliburton paying negative taxes, they're collecting more in income in benefits from the government than they're paying in taxes. This is outrageous and this is absurd. So what am I going to do as your president? First and foremost is I'm going to have a tax system that is moral, that is fair, and that invests in the public good. And I'm going to make sure that workers, 150 million workers, get tax decreases that's going to increase their salary. My RISE credit gives 150 million Americans an increase in salary by cutting their taxes, and it even changes the definition of work. Because if you're home taking care of someone with Alzheimer's or special needs kids, that is work as well, and you're going to qualify for my tax credit. But more than that, it's going to take teachers and public school workers and say to you, we're going to give you a special tax bracket, because if you're helping to educate our children, you shouldn't pay more of a percentage of your income in taxes than someone who works on Wall Street. That is wrong when you're making a bigger contribution to our communities. But the last thing I want to say with the limited time I have is, if you want to deal with gentrification, please put a mayor in the White House. Because when I was mayor of my city, I knew what could happen. We're right 10 miles from Manhattan. And we knew corporations might want to come over. And if we allow them to drive up the cost of housing, you could again see the displacement of entire communities. And I will not let that happen, not on my watch. I started my career as a tenants' rights organizer, and that's where I've lived for 20 years amongst low-income tenants, because I believe that everyone in this country deserves to have a community and a home and not have to commute hours to work because they can't find affordable housing. And so I have a massive plan as a part of my presidential platform that I will execute upon, which is about affordable housing in this country. And one of the big things it does is it says if you're trying to live in your city, but it would take 50% of your income just to hold on to an apartment that doesn't even meet your family's needs, enough of that. If we give tax breaks, we have a lot of things. We move $700 million through our tax code to help people who have wealth get more wealth. What we're going to do is now turn that around and say if you're struggling and paying more than 30% of your income in rent, you are going to qualify for that difference between 30% of your income and the area median rent. You're going to get a tax credit from the government. We have to make sure we have livable cities. And I'm out of time, but I got to get my mayor's hat on. We can't be a nation that watches China build 18,000 miles of high-speed rail, and you all out here in California can't even build rail lines that help people commute to work. Mass transit, investing in infrastructure is going to be something that I'm going to prioritize, because dollars invested in infrastructure like mass transit, subways, train systems grows our economy by multiples in return. And I know infrastructure is not sexy. That's why I'm trying to lose some weight so I can make up for it. But I will be someone that will be focused on livable cities for everyone of every income bracket, from housing to mass transit to quality public schools, because Prop 13 is a sin against our ideals about everybody having an equal education. All right. The spotlight is on you.
Good
afternoon. My name is Andrea Leach, and I am a nurse's assistant at Broad Mountain Nursing and Rehab Center in Frackville, Pennsylvania. I am a proud member of SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania. I'm on the executive board. I also serve on a committee for racial justice, social, and economical justice. We recently did a poll of our SEIU members to see what issues they had, what their concerns were, and criminal justice was one of them. Our members are really concerned about police brutality, inequality in sentencing, and the criminalization of black and brown people. So in your first 100 days of you being president, how would you dismantle systems that over-criminalize and over-incarcerate our black and brown people?
So hold on. So if you want to know what somebody's going to do in the future, check out what they've done in the past. It's easy to tell you what you want to hear, but let me just tell you, my whole life has been about trying to end this system of mass incarceration that has us in the distraught present right now, that there are more black people now in America who are under criminal supervision, in jail, prison, probation, parole. More black people in America now are under criminal supervision than all the slaves in 1850. We have a nation of mass incarceration that is now, we are only 5% of the globe's population, but 1 out of every 4 incarcerated people on the planet Earth are here in America. 1 out of every 3 incarcerated women on the planet Earth are here in America. And while we should have been investing in infrastructure, our infrastructure has been crumbling except for one area. Between the time I was in law school to the time I was mayor of the city of Newark, we were building a new prison or jail in our country every 10 days. This is sinful what's going on. And this war on drugs has been a war on people because there's no difference. There is no difference in America whatsoever between black, white, and brown for using drugs or dealing drugs. But if you're black in America, you're almost 4 times more likely to be arrested for it. And don't get me started on marijuana. There were more marijuana arrests in 2017 than all violent crime arrests combined. That's why I have been leading in the United States Senate on legalizing marijuana, do not talk about legalizing marijuana if they're not in the same sentence or the next one you say that we are going to expunge the records of everybody in this country. Because we have, yes, because we have a nation right now where as we sit here, there are children, no exaggeration, children in jail for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing. We have a criminal justice system that is not just, it is broken, and it is attacking low-income people, mentally ill people, people struggling with addiction. It's attacking women who are survivors of sexual assault because 86% of women who are incarcerated are survivors of sexual assault. So put me in the White House because I'm tearing down this system. And I'm telling you right now, Y'all have had a lot of candidates up here. But I have challenged this entire Democratic Party field to do not be like this president that waits for Kim Kardashian or Kanye West to roll up. There are 17,000 federal prisoners who are unjustly incarcerated today. If I am your president, I will give a pathway to liberation on the first week I'm in office, a pathway to liberation for the 17,000 people that are in prison on bogus marijuana charges. 17,000 people that are in prison because of the crack cocaine, powder cocaine disparity. 17,000 people that we know are unjustly incarcerated, assaulting the liberty in a nation where that is our most sacrosanct ideal. And I'm not stopping there. You want to talk about workers' rights? To allow someone who's been convicted of a nonviolent drug offense for the rest of their life they can't get a job, they can't get a loan from a bank, they can't get a business license. When I am now the President of the United States, we are the largest employer in America, federal government and federal contractors. And this union is right. You have a lot of power as president to demand that if you're a federal contractor, you're going to pay your employees a living wage. If you are a federal contractor, we can make sure that you allow your unions to organize. But if I'm the president, I'm going to make sure that we ban that box for everyone who's applying for a job to make sure we have employees. And this is my last question, so I see that. I see para, I see stop right there. So I want to tell you right now, Frederick Douglass said it, those who deprecate agitation but yet profess to favor freedom are those who want the ocean without its thunder and roar, those who want crops without the tilling of the soil. We live in a nation where we've never waited for a president to make change. We've never waited for senators to make change. We got women's right to vote not because a bunch of men in 1920 got together on the Senate floor and said, hey fellas, let's give women the right to vote. That's not how it happened. We didn't get civil rights. We didn't get civil rights because we waited for Strom Thurmond to change his mind. We are here because people united will never be defeated. We are here because of organizing. We are here because of organizing. This is our country. This is our nation. We must stand. We must fight. We must organize. We must love one another. That's how we get the victory. Thank you.
Good job.